Does Jesus' parable of the sower apply to us today? I think it does, and it may mean more than you think. Welcome back to Feeding the 4,000. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name's Kevin, and I started this channel to tell the world how Christ has continued to transform my life, and hopefully help you understand how he can change yours as well. Now, I want you to think back to the first time you heard anyone say anything from the Bible. What shape was your heart in at the time? Were you angry? Were you depressed? Were you happy? Were things going well for you? Or were you in a place where everything seemed lost? Many of us, especially those that were raised in the church, have heard the parable of the sower. But do we really know what it means in our lives? That's what I want to explore today. I want to start first by reading the parable of the sower in Mark chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. Again, he began to teach beside the sea, and a very large crowd gathered about him, so that he got into a boat and sat in it on the sea. And the whole crowd was beside the sea and the land, and he was teaching them many things in parables. And in his teachings he said to them, "Listen, behold, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some of the seed fell upon the path, and the birds came and devoured it. Other seed fell on rocky ground, where it did not have much soil, and immediately it sprang up, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. And other seed fell into good soil and produced grain, growing up and increasing, and yielding 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. And he said, He who has ears, let him hear." Now I want to start by telling a little story. There was a guy in my hometown. His parents were good people, and he had always been raised in a Christian home. His dad had always talked about the Bible with him and tried to teach him what was right and wrong. But as many young men do, he started hanging out with guys that weren't necessarily bad. They just weren't the best influence on this young man. He began smoking and hanging out in all the wrong places. Oftentimes, he and his friends would be up to some sort of shenanigans. Then one night, while this young man was hanging out with his friends at the bowling alley in town, another young man from high school approached him and invited him to church. To say that his reaction to the young man was harsh would be an understatement. He blew smoke in the guy's face and told him to get out of here with all that church stuff. But the other young man wouldn't be deterred and persisted in asking him to church every chance he got, to the point that he got on his knees and begged him to come to church with him in the parking lot of that very bowling alley. Finally, he relented and agreed to go to church, mainly based off the promise of meeting the pretty young ladies that attended the church. Now, fast forward a few months, and there was a revival at the church. And the young man attended, and it was at this revival that the young man heard the testimony of another classmate of his, one who had been diagnosed with leukemia and whom God had delivered from that. And after hearing this story, the young man felt compelled, almost as though he were being drugged to the front of the church, to give his life to Christ. About a year or two later, the young man met a young lady and they got married, but that didn't last long. Marital infidelity on the young lady's part led to the two getting divorced. But that wasn't the only damage that was caused that day. You see, cracks started to form in the young man's faith, and he started to turn away from God. Now, fast forward several years, and the young man is not so young anymore, but he meets another young lady. But this one is different. You see, she insisted that they go to church, and he obliged. But he was never really present at church. He was always thinking about bills or the next thing he wanted or that job he was after, never about God. He knew the word, he had heard the word, but the desires of the world were more important to him. He never really felt fulfilled in life, no matter what nice things he had or how much money he made or what car he drove. He never could get to that place. They bounced from church to church, but none of them seemed to be a fit. They found one and stayed there, but the circumstances of life took them away from it for a time. And when they returned to the church, it wasn't the same. The guy found himself right back where he started. They found the church finally, the one that felt right, but he still wasn't present. Then one Sunday, as they were leaving, he heard something almost audible tell him to start a Bible study. He brushed it off and went on about his normal, everyday life. But that feeling kept coming back and back, and there were specific names in his head that he felt needed to be part of it. And one day, while he was on Facebook, he ran across a post by one of those people who just happened to be the guy that originally got him to go to church in the first place. And they began to talk, and he told him about the Bible study, and he said he was in, and he happened to be in contact with the other names. Now, they started this Bible study, and the guy's attitude started to change. Then he heard another voice in his head saying, "Now you need to spread my word, and YouTube is the place to do it." The guy relented and finally said yes. And then he started putting out content and spreading the word of God so that the people that needed to hear it could hear it. Now, guys, that young man was me. And I told that story to illustrate how it's possible to be all of the different types of soil in the parable. Jesus explains the parable in Mark 4:13 through 20. And he said to them, "Do you not understand this parable? How then will you understand all the parables? The sower sows the word, and these are the ones along the path where the word is sown. When they hear, Satan immediately comes and takes the word that is sown in them. And these are the ones sown on the rocky ground, the ones who, when they hear the word, immediately receive it with joy. And they have no root in themselves, but endure for a while. Then, when tribulation or persecution arises on account of the world, immediately they fall away. And the others are the ones sown among the thorns. Those are the ones who hear the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches and desires for other things enters in and chokes the word and it proves unfruitful. But those that were sown on the good soil are the ones who hear the word and accept it and bear fruit, 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. You see, some of us will hear the word, and because our hearts are not in the right place, the word will be taken from us at that very moment. That is when we're the path. Later in life, we may be in a better place and hear the word and accept it with joy. But then, like in my story, when a true test of faith comes along, we wither and turn away. And that's when we're on the rocky soil. At another time, we may hear the word, but the desires of the world will come up and choke the word from us and take it away. But we can all be the good soil, the ground where the word is sown and it multiplies. I finally got to that place where I am the good soil. Does that mean I'm perfect? No. I still make mistakes. I still fall short. But I try to spread the word and help lead others to the kingdom. The difference between when I was the other types of soil is that I was saying no to God. It wasn't until I said yes that I began to be fulfilled. I encourage you, when you hear God call your name, even if you feel apprehensive or you think you aren't good enough, say yes. Follow God's will. I promise He will provide you whatever you need to accomplish the mission He has sent you on. Guys, I want to take a moment to say that if this message spoke to you and you would like to hear more like it, hit those like and subscribe buttons and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any message I put out. And please, if you think you know someone that might be blessed by this message, please share it with them. Until next time, God bless.